everybody doing? Uh, I'm starting to fade a little bit. I'm gonna get done what I can get done. I gotta say, Daniel, I don't even remember where I found her at, but Daniel D. Nicoa on Twitch is looking really good, and EXO Ariel has always looked good, and she's wearing like a sweatshirt, a crew neck shirt, whatever you want to call it. She's looking better than she usually does, and I don't know if it's a hairstyle change, if she gained weight loss, whatever, but she just looks way cuter than she has in the past. I haven't seen her in a while, but they're showing up on there. Okay, we are up and running. I can actually see chat today. Uh, okay, now the thing that I want to talk about. Give me a second. Okay, now the thing I want to talk about today is I still got work to do on this. I don't know what I want to do with the floor yet, but I got this done. I have started working on this. I got a killer pumpkin farm over here. I think I'm gonna do the same thing with the. I think I'm gonna do the same thing with the melons over there. And I still haven't completely populated, but I actually expanded the. I'm gonna do a little bit of this, and I might not get the whole thing done, but as I get inspiration, I am gonna do it. I might even put a potato farm and a carrot farm over here, but this is to start with. Um, and I don't know. I'm gonna. I just give. I do this so you got something to watch. I usually can't do a whole lot when I'm doing this because if I'm focusing on what I'm talking, I'm not focusing on this. But but I. It's a long story, but and this is the thing. I honestly don't know, but there's a movie I want to watch. Uh, it's called Insidious: The Red Door or something like that. And again, it don't matter to me one way or the other, but it's got the one guy. He played Night Owl 2 and he played Night Owl 2 in The Watchmen, and he played Ed Warren in some of the horror movies. And I don't know if that's who he's playing here. I really don't. But he's in Insidious, and again, I don't know his role because I literally don't know that much about the series. I am under the impression, I'm kind of hoping that it's Ed and Lorraine Warren, but I didn't see her in the thumbnail or whatever of the movie. I didn't see that, so I don't know. But I want to watch it, and somewhere online, and I wish I could tell you, somewhere online I saw that, I had the ability to watch the Conjuring movies. I own one or two of them, but I basically found a spot where I can watch the Conjuring movies and at least some of the Insidious ones. And one channel has the Nun, and I think the other one has the Nun 2 or something like that. And so over the weekend, I think it was yesterday, I watched Conjuring 2. Sometime last week, I watched, either that or it was last week, and I watched Conjuring 1. And I've seen those before. And the thing that got me was I okay. The thing that got me was when I was watching the second Conjuring movie, there was a spot in there uh, where they had the door chained up. And the thing that got me, oh shit, the thing that got me was if you follow Skinwalker Ranch, um, there was one of the previous owners. Now I don't know if it's the guy Bigelow bought it from, or if it was the guy who owned it before Bigelow, or before I can't remember the names, but there was a family that owned it before Bigelow, and then there was another family that owned it before them. Uh, I don't know how long it would take me to look that up because I actually have I just can't think of the names. And well, anyways, one of those two previous owners before Bigelow, when the next person moved in, they noticed that there were these giant fucking chains all over the place. And that is something I seem to notice. And again, maybe it's all bullshit, maybe it's all in my head. I really don't know. But I've been seeing patterns as I've been getting back into this. I'm seeing these patterns on stuff. Like someone who and this is not demonology. These there's people that think this shit's like alien or whatever. And they chain stuff down. They had doors chained. They had refrigerators chained. I think they had cupboards chained. And the on one of the seasons of the it was either first or second season, I believe. They had a sheriff retired who had worked the area, and he was explaining to them. They were asking about that, and he knew the guy in question. He knew the owner that had put the chains on everything. And he said, because he was friends with the guy, he was over there a fair amount. I guess he had asked him, why do you got the chains on everything? And there are stories about this that have come out. Thing is, though, and I will tell you this, they had somebody that knew the family there. Oh, there's no water there. Okay. And the guy had said, I guess, that they had this stuff chained because if you didn't have stuff chained down, it sometimes went missing. And one of the stories was the guy who owned the ranch at the time, or was either that or it was the guy after him. I can't remember who had the chains. Well, he had mentioned that this one of the stories is that his cows went missing, and they were stacked on top of each other like a little cheerleader pyramid in one of the buildings, and it was such a way that the cows couldn't have gotten in there on their own unless you were strong enough to pick up a cow and put it on top of another one like Hercules, or take the third one and put it on top of the other two. You'd have never been able to do it. You wouldn't have been able to use a crane because of the fucking roof on the building or whatever. I think it was a little trailer or something like that. And they found him in there, and they had to get him out. And this is the shit you heard about. Then there was another story, that guy's wife, or the guy after him's wife. She came home with groceries. She put everything away. And something happened, and these two stories might be related, but I'm going to separate them because I can't remember for sure if they were. But she put all this stuff away, and then like when she came back into the kitchen, everything was put back in the bags. And this might be part of the same story. I can't remember off the top of my head if she went in to shower and then when she came out, but she went in to shower, she had locked the door, she was alone in the shower, and when she got out of the shower, the towels and her clothes were gone. Then there was another story where he had like a post hole digger and he was using it. He set it down. He did a couple things. And when he came back, it was gone. And he found it in the area, like 50, 60 feet up in a tree. And the sheriff made the comment when he was on Skinwalker that that guy who owned the property with all the, put all the chains on it, he let it slip that things visited him at night. He could hear them outside the building, walking around. And this is why you got to take the stories that again. I'm not telling you what to. I'm just saying you need to take them with a grain of salt, and trust and verify because there was a story. It was something about some dogs on there. And I can't remember what the story was, but they brought in somebody who knew the family or was a member of the family. And whatever the story was with the dogs, um, he goes, well, yeah, that ain't really what happened. And one of the stories, and I don't know if it was the real one or not, but they had these dogs. They were barking, and they let them go, let them chase after something. There was something they were, and then they found them like they had been squished, like pancakes. I don't know if that's the real story or if that's what the rumor was, but he goes, well, yeah, some of the stories are just not right. So I'm telling you this stuff with a grain of salt because I really don't know if it's real or not. But what got me though was watching that horror movie, and she had chained the doors. There's this one door upstairs, and and this is the thing that gets me because again I saw it was either George Knapp or Graham Hancock, but they were basically saying that like UFO people and ghost hunters don't like each other, and neither one of those groups likes the people like Graham Hancock that are trying to rewrite history. And the and this is going to be all over the place, but if you listen to the whole thing, hopefully it'll make a little more sense by the end of it, or at least I'll try. But he when you look at this, it's like, oh my God, and like that. And then the other thing is like Lou Elizondo, he was talking at one point that there were people in the military that did not want them researching, didn't want them researching UFOs because these religious nuts that are in the military think it's demonology. Because he basically said that somebody in the military it was like a colonel or a general, somebody higher rank, and he told me, you guys don't need to investigate this. We already know what it is. And the way Lou explained it, he was like shocked. He's like, oh, really? Hey, he goes, I'm not, he goes, I'm being serious. He goes, if you know what this stuff is, why don't you tell me? Because he goes, I got to get to the bottom of this and file a report. And he's like, if you really know what this is, it's, I could do my report. I could save a whole lot of time and money by just filling out that report now. And the guy goes, well, he goes, you just open up your Bible. He's talking about demons and stuff. And this is the other thing that gets me. If you, and again, I am not an expert on this. I don't even play one on TV in front of a New York sex toy shop, but I watch people that may, in fact, be experts on this, or at least know a hell of a lot more than you or me do. And when, and these guys will go on a rant and they'll talk. Well, one of the things they will talk about is um, And again, this gets out of UFOs and demonology because and you got to understand, like, this was years ago. We're talking, oh, before I get too far into this, I'm really, I'm really not using like Facebook all that much anymore. It just, uh, I'm just not. And, the, but I don't use Facebook that much anymore, really at all. Uh, I don't use. I occasionally look at stuff on Instagram, but I don't really put anything on there. And the I'm not, because again, it's just little notifications pop up, and since I'm not using them, I get the notifications, but it's not really convenient for me to go on there. And I knew the guy. I never he wasn't a bad guy, but he was a fucking idiot. Uh, he wasn't so much an idiot when we were younger, but as he got older, he just got fucking dumber. But it's a guy. I went to school with his younger brother, and he went to school with my middle brother, and they're in the same. We were all in the same grade, and um, I think he just passed away, and I'm not like devastated or anything, but it is a little sad. Uh, I never really hated the guy, but he did stupid shit. And as he got older and on, you know, he smoked a lot of pot, and I think he smoked enough. I don't think he was smoking it for medicinal purposes, but I think he smoked enough of it that it fucked up his brain. And this is why I worry about Rogan and some of the other people that are doing stuff that's stronger than marijuana. And again, when you get into these other cultures, they always had these rules and policies and I think those were there to protect you people, these people from the bad side effects of pot or the drugs. And again, I don't really care what people do if it isn't affecting me directly or indirectly. I don't really feel it's any of my business. But in this guy's case, it wasn't affecting me directly, but he voted for fucking idiots, and so I think his drug use affected all of us. And the worst part of it is, I really don't know what he was like when he was younger, but and I don't know, he might have even been joking around, I don't know, but he really sounded like a gung-ho Bush and Trump supporter. And no joke, when Bush was president during the Great Recession, which was almost a Great Depression because of his fucking stupidity, because of the economic slowdown, he lost, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong on the job thing, but I think he lost his job, his house, and his wife because of, the economic slowdown when Bush Jr. was in charge. And that wasn't enough to get his fucking head out of his ass. He still supported that guy, and it's like, this is the problem we have with these people. They're supporting these people. It's fucking them up. Like Vice, and I'm gonna get back on this, but like they had this thing on Vice News or the Vice channel, and it was these people. Their fucking town was going underwater because of global warming. And and then my friend that I've known him since grade school. Whatever the fuck happened to him, whatever happened to his brain and made it defective, you know, voting the way he did was having an effect. And it's the same way with my brother. The people he votes for, or at least he used to vote for, they would be happy to see him starving on the street. They would. And these are people that are constantly voting for stuff that would have him basically out on the street, starving. Um, they're the ones that are holding back minimum wage. They're the ones that are holding back disability and welfare for people that need it. You know, on the off chance that one, and this somebody made this comment, the difference, two differences between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is the Republican Party will basically deny 99 people that need help if one person's gonna fucking get it that doesn't need it. And the Democrats are of the mindset that they'd rather help one person. If 99 people are going to get something they don't need, they still want to help that one person, even if they got to help out 99 worthless people. And then the other one is the Republicans want a big military that goes nowhere, and then the Democrats want a small military that goes everywhere. Them are the two big differences between the parties. And yeah, but I think he passed away, so that's I'm a little sad because of that. Um, there was a friend of mine. There was a friend of mine that I knew from high school. I met him in a cooking class, and he was born with spina bifida, and he wasn't expected to live to even go to school, let alone graduate high school. And when he passed, and I was out of state, so I didn't find out about it until after his funeral. I probably wouldn't have been able to come anyways. But I did not know about I didn't know about the funeral until after it had already happened, and that one hit me kind of hard. That one really hit me kind of hard, and this one isn't as much. And then the other one, and I have no idea, because again, I get the notifications, and it's already a done deal. There's nothing I can do to change it. So and this is a character flaw on my part, I'll admit it, but I just don't know what to do. I'm not using it. Like I said, I still get notifications, but I would have to fucking work a little bit, not much at all, but I'd have to fucking do something to get on there and find out what's going on. And then, I might get sucked into being on it all the time again, which I really, with what's going on with me, I got enough shit to occupy my time right now until the end. Oh, and speaking of that, call to action, please write your elected officials at the government, at the federal, state, and local level. Call them, send them a postcard, write them a letter, drop them something on Twitter or Threads or wherever you're on, if they're there, and ask them to legalize assisted suicide. Um, I really don't know how much time I got left, but as as I get older, as I get sicker, I would honestly like some better options, and I don't think that's too unreasonable. If you keep coming in, I'll go into it a little more detail. I just don't want to bore everybody every time. Just you should be able to think about it. Like we're basically risking women's life because we can't get them medical care because of religious nuts. And we've got kids getting shot in school because we can't pass laws that would protect them because of gun nuts, people with small penises and no social life. And so, please do that. I watched a family member, like last year, go through hospice, watching them starve to death, watching them, die of dehydration. It was just not fun. And I honestly think we should have, again, maybe she would have wanted to go that way, and that's fine. But if she'd have wanted, a more graceful entrance or exit. She should have had the right to it. She really should have. And the so I don't know, but and then the other thing, this is being worked on right now. The other call to action: please write the president, your congressman. You got to do all this at the federal level. I don't think the state level can do anything. But write them and let them know we need Chuck Schumer's bill to pass. It sounds like they started debating again. I kind of reached out to the president on Threads and I told him, I go, hey, look, here's what's going on. You got and I don't think it's enough, and I think I told him that, I don't think it's enough, but you got a fairly moderate proposal in the Senate to adopt like a panel like they had for the JFK documents and release stuff. Hope they did a better job. I would hope they would do a better job than the J, but release stuff. And I told them the way it looks, I go, originally it was 3 people in the Senate. Now it's 2 people in the House. It sounds like it passed the Senate. And I go, it sounds like I'm hearing 2 people mentioned by name. And I think I put a link to the video clip talking about it. I go, Biden is on Threads now, so you can actually tag him in or his office. He might not be reading this stuff. But I go, according to this, there is 2 people blocking this. One of them is in Ohio, and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is in his district. And I go, the other one has a whole bunch of military contractors in his district. And what I told him was, I go, you need to write an executive order. An executive order stating that you are going to, by this executive order, declassify everything. Everything that would be covered by the amendment that just got skunked. Every document, every fucking item, every project being worked on. I go, you're just going to declassify it. And I go, then send a copy of it to everybody involved, every member of Congress, military, intelligence, the defense contractors, and you let them know that if that bill or if that amendment does not pass, as Biden and Chuck Schumer intended, because Biden reached out and helped draft it a little bit. I go, if that does not pass as it was intended, that you're going to sign the fucking thing. You're just going to let it all come out. And I go, that's your nuclear option. That's your stick to get them on board, to quit fucking around. Because I told them, I go, this idea that we are constantly bombarded with, where you've got a small handful, in this case it sounds like there might be 2 right now holding it up. The fact that you got the small handful of people that are constantly sabotaging what the majority of bipartisan support is, whether it be gun legislation, raising a minimum wage, all this shit. I go, this is one you should not slide on. And I go, if you are forced to sign that letter, you should immediately appoint a special prosecutor to find the criminals, indict them, prosecute them, and lock them up. I go, like Watergate, you just follow the money, because I go, according to a sworn whistleblower, somebody who testified under oath, there's misappropriation going on in Congress. You've got, we'll come back. You got misappropriation going on. I go, Congressman said every time they audit the Pentagon, I go, there's like $1 billion missing. And I go, just follow that money. But I go, and I told him, I go, here's the thing. I go, you are going to find, regardless of what else you may or may not find with Schumer's amendment, you are likely going to find that the law was broken. And I go, that special prosecutor should be looking for everybody that broke the law in the military, everybody that broke the law in the intelligence community, and so on and so forth, and put them in jail. I go, no immunity, none of that crap. You just basically, if these people want to give somebody up, they can work out a favorable settlement. But the just like what we're doing with Trump and that now, you really want to get the people that were in charge, the one that were running things. The lower level people, yeah, maybe cut them some breaks, but we got to send a message. This will not be tolerated anymore. And I go, and the other thing you need to do with that special prosecutor is there's a lot of unfair trade going on. And I go, these companies can't get a pass. No more of this bullshit of covering it up like it's been happening for 50 or 70 years. I go, you need to prosecute those companies. And I go, they need to get the Enron treatment where you break up the companies, you give the valuable stuff to others in the industry. And I go, the executives, you go after their money, the ill-gotten gains they got, you shut down the company, you put people in jail. This is what you need to do. And I go, and I told him about some stuff Hancock had said. I go, this really needs to be done. And I go, I think it should be done, but I go, if they want to do the moderate, reasonable amendment that Schumer is working on, then yeah, then maybe you don't need to disclose everything. You can go through the process. But I told him, I go, I know what it was. I go, that David Grutch. I might not have spelled the name right, but I go, that guy there, when he testified before Congress, I go, he went and did a interview with Joe Rogan, and I go, he basically said that he was involved in a conversation, a discussion for a previous White House, and he said that is what was said, that when they were looking at it, because they wanted to disclose everything, and I go, he said that the main reason why they didn't is because of all the criminal and civil legal problems that would arise if they told the truth. And I go, this is bullshit. I go, this is the same crap you hear out of the Republicans. I go, you had Republicans that wanted immunity for COVID. I might not have put this in. I was thinking it though. But I go, you had Republicans that wanted immunity for COVID in case greedy little fuckers that made their workers come back actually made people sick because they brought them back too early from COVID. They didn't spend the money to protect them. And I go, this is the same shit. I go, you've got people that want to protect these people for criminal acts or unfair trade. And I go, no. I go, this would be like protecting Enron after they got called out. And he said that was one of the reasons why it didn't happen under a previous administration, just because they want to protect criminals. And I go, that's wrong. That's just absolutely wrong. And I go, and then the other thing was, I go, Cuomo, who was doing an interview on his podcast, he said that, because they were talking about Trump and how Trump was like a fucking anarchist, a Captain Chaos. And his guest was discussing, well, I can't figure out why he didn't, because he campaigned on the fact that he was going to let all the JFK stuff out. And then he got in there and he didn't. And, like what I was telling him, there were people that were, Trump was basically saying, I'm just going to declassify it. I got the authority. Nobody can tell me no. And somebody goes, I don't understand why he didn't do it. And Cuomo goes, well, I heard a story about why he didn't do it. And the guy goes, well, if you can't talk about it, because of sources and that, he goes, I completely understand, but he goes, I would really love to hear about that. And what he said was that it was it was either the head of the CIA or Secretary of State, that Pompeo guy. He basically convinced him that if you let everything out, it would damage people's view of the government. Well, I'm sorry, people, and again, even if that were true, I don't think it is, because a lot of people got a shitty view of the government anyways. I don't really know how they can make it much worse. But I kind of pitched it to him. I said, Mr. President, think about the legacy. Think about the legacy of this if I go, you could come out and just declassify all the JFK stuff. And this was something else Grutch had said. I don't know. I never saw this. But I saw Podesta talking a lot about UFOs. But I never saw him say this. I've never even heard anybody claim he said this before. But he said Leon Podesta, I think is the guy's name. He worked for Clinton and Obama. And it has come out, and I think it might be. Well, I think this is true because there is video of Clinton where he is asked about UFOs, and he said he got. I think I got the stories right here, but there's one I saw where somebody yelled at him, and he responded back that if because I think somebody yelled at him when he was out walking from here to there, and from the car to the building or building to the car or whatever, or wherever he was, and they wanted to know about UFOs, and he said, he goes, hey, he goes, if the government knows anything about UFOs, they didn't tell me about it either, and he goes, and I want to know. And the military had worked up a proposal to him, and they had worked up a proposal. And it basically whitewashed and stonewalled everything. And he was doing a speech, and I've seen this one I think too. And he basically said, well, I got written by, and it was some kid's name. I got wrote to by somebody, and they wanted to know this, and they want to know about Roswell or the aliens or whatever. And he made the comment that he has asked for information, and he said, they haven't told me anything about it. And it was the same thing again. I really want to know. And that prompted the military to do a Roswell case closed memo briefing or whatever for him. And they and there was this guy. He worked for Clinton in the counsel's office. And I've mentioned this, I think, a couple times before. I'm sorry, but it's relevant. I'm trying to mash this whole thing together. And he said that when Clinton gave him the job, he said, "Hey, there's one thing I want you to do, or there's a couple things. There's two things I want you to do for me." He goes, "I wanna know," or he said, "There's something I want you to do." He goes, "I want to know what happened with JFK," and he goes, "and I also want to know about the aliens or Roswell, something along those lines." And this guy, and again, when I saw this, I can't think of the guy's name, but I actually saw him talking about it. Don't know if it's true, don't know how credible the guy is, and never heard of him before. But he said he got a job in the counsel's office under Clinton, and this is what Clinton wanted. And he dug up what he could, and they couldn't get anywhere. They couldn't get anywhere. And this is what he said during the interview. He goes, after a while, I'm not making this up. This is what the guy said. Whether it's true or not, I have no fucking idea. But the guy said that after a while, Clinton dropped it, and he said, I think he was afraid they were going to kill him like they did Kennedy. That's what he said. That was his claim. And David Grutch, now that we got that in the picture, David Grutch said that he had heard Podesta, who's now worked for two different presidential administrations. He was asked in an interview who killed Kennedy, because they said, from what we understand, this was something Bill Clinton wanted to know. And his comment was, uh, what his comment was that he had seen the UFO file. And he goes, quite frankly, we got more things to worry about. Well, fuck it. Oh, now it's working. Projectile. Okay, I can kill both. I can kill this guy. But that's what he said. He goes, well, I saw the and I'm like, I think he was talking to Rogan, and Rogan was a little shocked, but he said, I'm pretty sure it was Grutch that was talking about this. And he said that I've seen the UFO file, and we got bigger things to worry about than who killed Kennedy. And, okay. Okay, now I think I'm going to wait. And I mentioned that, this is what he was saying, and I go, then Cuomo, he basically said that, I think I told you this already, but Cuomo had said that he had heard Pompeo had talked Trump out of it by saying, well, people would get hurt. And I go, no matter what, I go, you should really think about releasing all that stuff on Kennedy. I go, this idea that after all this amount of time that there's something worth still lying to us about, that's crap. I told him, I go, you think about that as a legacy. I go, you could be the president who is so in favor of transparency and the people that you're just going to declassify it all with an executive order. And I go, and if they keep fucking around on this disclosure that Schumer's pushing for, I go, you could be the guy that declassifies everything with UFOs, empowers a special prosecutor to put the crooks in jail, and to break up the military-industrial complex, something that fucking Eisenhower warned us about. And according to his one granddaughter, he tried to do it and they stopped him. You could be the guy that fucking just takes all that out. Takes the fucking country away from the military corrupt, the intelligence corrupt, and the military, and gives it back to the people. I go, what kind of a legacy would that be? And I did that before the weekend hit. Might have been Thursday or Friday night. And I heard yesterday that it was Sunday. Pretty sure it was yesterday. They were reporting that they were still debating it, and they said that as long as it wasn't like an old clip that somebody put up on YouTube, but they said they were still debating it, and they talked about those two congressmen, Mike and Mike, that had tried to shut it down, and it sounded like it was getting more discussion now. And so, hey, I don't care who gets credit, I don't care who was responsible, but I think that would be great if we actually get it done. I really do, because this is the thing that gets me, and this is why I think, I don't care if you're a UFO person, I don't care if you're an old Earth person, the megalithic people, the ancient aliens people. I don't care if you're like a guy that's interested in ghosts I think we all got to get on the same page, because this was something that was mentioned too that I thought was interesting. I think this was Graham Hancock, but I'm not 100% sure. They were talking about how most of your archaeologists, they only dig down so far because they're either ordered to or they're educated to, because and this is the thing I don't know if there's some kind of grand conspiracy between, I'm not serious here, but I don't know if there's some kind of grand conspiracy between the Vatican and the Illuminati and the fucking lizard alien people, or if it's just laziness. Kind of like you sometimes see this with like fucking lazy or incompetent or immature police forces where, oh well, the body's here, so this is we're gonna check, and there might be evidence in another building on the campus, or they might be evidence in another room that the body's not in. Kind of like if you have a car accident and a car just fucking T-bones a tree or something like that. Well, if you only check inside the car, you might miss a whole shitload of evidence like a body that went through the windshield, and landed, half a football field away or something. And and it's that kind of thing where they only dig down so far. They only dig down so far, and they're just not. And he said that there have been a few times where other archaeologists that are a little more independent, a little more clear headed, not taking the fucking guided tour, they'll dig down farther. And when they get far enough down, they actually find evidence of another civilization. Like they'll find evidence of stuff that goes back 130,000 years. And regardless of what's out there, I don't care if aliens came here and created us as an archaeological experiment. I don't care if there was us, you know, 300,000 years ago, and we were wiped out, and there's some kind of a race or something coming here trying to help us start out again. I don't care if it's something that is described in the Bible where they talk about the angels coming down and fucking women and creating the Nephilim or what. I don't care what it is, but we might actually find it. And there was one thing I was watching where they basically said that you go back far enough, and I don't think it was all that long ago. I think it was only like maybe 50 or 100 years. They thought like Helen of Troy, and uh, stories like this were all legend. And then they actually found the cities. I think they just found Sodom or Gomorrah. And they were and again, I don't know how accurate this stuff. It's on YouTube. Take it with a grain of salt. But they were saying that they had found Sodom from the Bible, and it looked like it had been the victim of a nuclear attack or something like that. I don't know. I didn't get a chance. I'm a little skeptical of it because it to me it just sounds like crap. But I'm really trying to keep an open mind. But and there was something Graham Hancock was talking about. This was something he did. It was like a lecture. It looked like a lecture he was giving after he did that Ancient Apocalypse or whatever on Netflix. And what he was talking about is now that they're getting these DNA records from all over the world because they can test DNA, and there's a lot of things they can learn going back generations. And there is another former hypothesis that with the DNA evidence has pretty much been proven to be not true. And what it is, they they hang on a sec. They they had this theory, and you may have heard this, maybe not, but it's the story of the land bridge, like the ice bridge or whatever, going from like Russia to uh, Alaska. And they think a lot of people, like a lot of things came across there, and that's how we got around. Because if you go back, the theory is, and I'm making fun of it, but there are people that are this fucked up. I'm not making this up. There are people out there that think the planet is no more than roughly 6,000 years old. Everything else is bullshit. And they also believe, these are the young Earth creationist fucking nut jobs, and they think it was like they think Flintstones is like a documentary, and I'm exaggerating, but I'm not really exaggerating that much. They have these creationism museums where you have people in pictures and in displays just hanging out with the dinosaurs, like farming right next to them. They think dinosaurs were on the fucking ark. Not making this up. And the not, I wish I was, but I'm not making that shit up. And the and so that but this is part of that theory. Well, if the Earth is only like 6,000 years older, it'd probably be like 6,100 years old now. But because of that, uh, you had to have this excuse as to how things got along. Well, now he's saying that they've got the DNA, and what they are finding is it is a type of DNA that you see in like the indigenous people in like Australia, Indonesia, that area. I think they're in Hawaii, and I think they're in parts of Africa and or South America. And he goes, well, now that we got the DNA evidence, DNA of it says that's wrong. That there must have been another way, because he said what happened is the DNA of that's in Australia, that's in Hawaii, that's either in Africa and or South America, and I'm pretty sure it was in South America. If that were the case, you would find that DNA in North America and Russia, China, basically where these things would have come through to get to the land bridge. And he said, you're not. You're only, you're really not finding enough of it to be representative of them migrating and that. And so there had to be something else. And again, this points back to the continent of Mu and the people of Lemuria, or back the other way around. I don't know which, but it points to that, because if there was this continent that people think of as Lemuria or Mu, uh, that might explain how these people got from Australia to Africa and South America. If you had them, that would be a little bit of a land bridge. They wouldn't have had to boat so far to get where they were going. And so this is all interesting shit. And then one last thing I really wanna like put on to you here, and I can't. If I went through this before, I apologize. I don't remember it, but you hear these stories, like the demons and the ghosts, and then like I said, then there's that link with what's going on at like Skinwalker Ranch. And then you've got people like Elizondo telling you that there's people in the military that think this is demonology. They don't want to study these UFOs. Well, here's the thing. I used to watch this shit, and like I said, if I already did this, I apologize. I think I skipped over. I think I got lightheaded and distracted. But you had these people that will tell you, because especially when I was on third shift, sometimes even second shift, I'd be up when nobody else was. So when I'd be home visiting, or before I moved out, whatever, This was like probably 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And even when I wasn't home, I'd be up like third shift hours on the weekend or holidays. Everybody else would be fucking asleep. And around the holidays, around like Easter, around Christmas, the History Channel used to turn into the Jesus Channel, and I don't mean that in a bad way. And like certain other days, the History Channel would become the Nazi Channel. They, like around the holiday of or around the anniversary of uh, Pearl Harbor, and around the anniversary of Victory in Europe Day and shit. Like they just go on a thing. They're not as bad anymore because they got more content. They just become the fucking Nazi channel. Well, I used to watch them when they were going over the Christian stuff and the Jewish stuff, and some of the stuff that came out I find fascinating and disturbing. And like when the Da Vinci Code came out, and again, I don't know if they made it or if they just got it from somebody else. But there was this documentary that basically went over the Da Vinci Code. And they told you that, well, pretty much everything that's in Dan Brown's book was not new. And I wish I could tell you the guy's name, but he wrote a book, and he basically said that almost everything in the Da Vinci Code was taken from his book. But his book was not written as a novel. It was written as history. And they talked about that. And one of the things during one of those, they had a priest on there. I don't think he was a cardinal or a bishop, but he was a priest. And they had him talking about Dan Brown, and he said, well, and some of this, I'm going to do my best to wrap all this together. It's like I said. But he said that the thing with it was there really wasn't a lot of definitive proof, because he said, when you have these people talking about Jesus and Mary being married and having a kid named Sarah, which is like Hebrew for princess or something like that. See, another thing they brought up was um, Mary Magdala, or Magdalene or Magdala, that Jesus allegedly married. Um, Her family tree made her a higher rank than Jesus. They said her lineage to King David was better than Jesus's. And, so again, trying to take the mythology out of it, that would be a reason for Jesus to want to hook up with her. If he had this idea, if he had this idea of making a name for himself, yeah, he might wanna like back in the day, that one girl that married Prince Edward or whatever, the one that's Harry's brother. I can't remember what his name was. Diana's other son. Yeah, I'm sure that girl that married him was kind of thinking, yeah, I'm marrying a guy who could be king someday. That's absolutely what I'm doing. And then, Jesus might have been doing the same thing regardless of what was going on. He might have said, hey, if I marry her, put a kid in her, that might make me a better option if they want to, crown somebody king of Jerusalem or whatever. And, but that was one of the things they brought up. And then the other thing he brought up was like, well, these people that are saying that, Jesus was married, uh, he said that after Jesus died, because you got the thing where it's one of the gospels that was not accepted into the Bible. Oh yes, there's a gospel of Mary Magdalene. There is a gospel of Judas. Not making that up. But there are all these gospels written by people talked about. There's a gospel of Enoch, I think. The gospel of Enoch, if I'm not mistaken, that one made it into the Ethiopian Bible at one point, but it was never brought into the Vatican Bible. And well, anyways, he said that yes, one of the gospels, one of the Gnostic gospels that they have, I think those came out in the Dead Sea Scrolls. But one of the Gospels that was talking about how Jesus, kissed Mary on the mouth, and and all the all this other shit. He also agreed with some of the other scholars that uh, it was very unusual for Jesus to be a man of his age and not be married at that time. So he said historically, and this is the evidence that they point to, that he would have nobody would have taken him seriously if he'd have been that old and wasn't married. Should have had at least one wife. And he he agreed with that. He's like, well, yeah, traditionally that would, but he goes, here's the biggest thing I see as evidence that it wasn't true is after Jesus died, I guess some of the apostles were complaining that they couldn't get married and have kids. And he was talking about it. He said, well, the one apostle was really whining, and I can't remember if it was can't remember which one it was, but he was basically whining that they couldn't get married and have kids. And he said, if Jesus had gotten married and had kids, he goes, I really think that he would have, because he goes, he wrote that one letter and he was really whining, and he goes, I think that if Jesus had, he would have been using that in his whine. He's like, well, you're telling us we can't get married. Jesus was married. He married Magdala. They had a kid together, and he brought that up as argument. But the other thing he had made a comment about was that if Jesus had been, or if Mary had been a man, and this was his words, not mine, but he said, in his opinion, if Mary had been a man, she not only would have been an apostle, but she would have been chief amongst the apostles. And he mentioned, because he said, when you read the stories, all the other apostles were hiding. She went and watched Jesus' crucifixion. She was devout enough to put her life at risk to go there and risk being seen. And he also pointed out that in the stories, believe them or not, I think they're stories. I would need more proof. I think there's more evidence of UFOs, ghosts, and demons than there is of Jesus' divinity. I firmly believe. Not saying it isn't true. I don't know. I wasn't there. Neither were you. Let's be honest. But I think there's more evidence for UFOs, ghosts, and demons than there is for that. Hell, you look at some of these pictures that were taken from like 100 years ago, and you see what look like. I think there's more evidence of time travel than there is for Jesus' divinity. And anyways, he said that she was the first one he appeared to. He didn't appear to any of the apostles. He appeared to her. And he goes, and I think if she was a man, she would be given credit for those moments of, grace, or whatever you want to call them, the miracles. And anyways, I also see stuff, and I'm seeing some of it I might have seen on the History Channel during their UFO stuff, like Ancient Aliens and other stuff. But I think there was some of that was on the History Channel, like not with the UFO stuff, but just the history stuff. Like a lot of these people now that are against abortions and that, what they don't know is, and some of this is the church's fault, some of this is their parents and their school's fault for making them so fucking stupid and gullible. But there's no reason. There's no reason by the traditions and history of Christianity and the Bible to fret abortion, because you got all these nut jobs running around with their tongue up somebody's ass, going, oh well, the got to protect the soul, because there's some of them that think the thing becomes alive at the moment of conception. There's some of them that think it does when the heart starts beating. This is a thing in Christianity, or at least Judaism. And let's be honest, the Muslim faith and the Christianity faith, they're basically cult like offshoots of Judaism. There's just no way to get around it. Absolutely is. Uh, but the in the faith, there's this thing called the guff. It's where all the souls are kept before they go into a body. And they don't leave the guff and enter the body until that first breath after you're born. This is why, and we're gonna get into this briefly, and then I'm gonna move on. It used to be like when I was a kid, if you were a stillborn baby, you could not be blessed, you could not have rites at your funeral because you weren't going to heaven. If you were a stillborn baby, they went to purgatory. They didn't go to hell, but they went to purgatory and they stayed there forever. Because until you are born and you take that cleansing breath or whatever they call it, you're not qualified to go to heaven. You're just not. And so there's all this stuff, and then what happened is it's more recent. I want to say it was in the last like 10, 15 years. They were having trouble getting people in Africa to join the Christian faith because they've got such a high infant mortality rate that these people were like, well, fuck it. My baby isn't going to sit in purgatory. So they actually changed it. They changed it to where, if you're born stillborn, you went to heaven instead of purgatory. And it was a recruiting tool. It was absolutely a recruiting tool, kind of like when the military recruiters tell you you'll get the station you want when you get out of boot camp. Possibly, it's a thing to get you to join, and once you join, you find out, yeah, one in 100 candidates get to go there, and you're not one of them. But that's the shit going on there. Well, some of these shows, and some of them I think were the Ancient Aliens or the shows on before Ancient Aliens that history did or history was showing, where you talk to these people, and they covered this a little bit in the Da Vinci Code, but you talk to these people who know something about it. And there's this, he's on some of the other History Channel shows, but they've brought him on Skinwalker Ranch at least once or twice. And when you listen to these guys, now these guys know a hell of a lot more about the Bible and all that other bullshit than I do. So I listen to them. You should listen to them too. But they will sit there and tell you that heaven and hell was kind of a made up thing by the Christian faith. Didn't really exist. The way I was hearing it was that in the Jewish faith, which again, let's be honest, the Christianity and the Muslim faith are basically cult-like offshoots of the Jewish faith. Hell, some of those really, really, really strongly faithful Muslim groups, they dress like the strong, faithful Jewish groups. Like, I got to be honest with you, I think on some level, if Jesus came back, if he was back today, I think he would look to some of the, he might not like what they're saying and doing, but I think he would be looking to some of these more strongly devout Muslim and Jewish faiths rather than anybody in the Christian faith. Because they're like, oh, well, these people cover their head when they're around God. They do this, they do that. I think he'd be like, yeah, those people flying the planes into buildings, they're a little fucked up. They're gonna have a little problem when they find out, that Muhammad was just a prophet. He was not a head of a religion or anything. I think they're gonna have some problems going forward. And so you got that going on. But they would say that, this whole idea of heaven and hell is just a myth created by Christianity. It's like the Jewish faith. The better a person you are, the closer you are to God in the afterworld. And he goes, so, the idea of heaven is just being closer to God. And the idea of hell is just being away from God. And he goes, it's that simple. This whole thing of hell and the demons, and they covered this in that opening scene for the Da Vinci Code, where he puts up a pitchfork and everybody's going, Lucifer, the devil, blah blah. And he goes, oh no, that's Poseidon's fork. Well, hi there. Oh my God, it ain't even 3 o'clock yet. You come on up. Yeah, you come on up and be a good girl. You can be my co-host. Might be getting a co-host. Come on, you come on up. You want to be I'll put my feet up. Yeah, you be my co-host. Yeah, come on up. Oh, you gonna be a little party pooper? You come on up. You come on up. Yeah, look at the camera. This is my co-host, Patches. Yeah, she's a very, very sweet cat that we love very, very much. Yeah, you're my co-host. Okay, now you just lay down and supervise. Yeah, you lay down and supervise. Well, but there's a lot of this shit, and this is the thing that gets me when I hear some of these shows where they're talking about the Lemurians and Atlantis. Uh, God, there was one. I was just watching this stuff yesterday. It was on the Greek mythology, and they were talking about the stuff. They talked about a lot of things, and the one of the biggest things that I will say that you can take away from the Greek mythology is that incest is bad. And maybe all these like uber religious people on the right, maybe they should give up Christianity and study a little Greek mythology. Maybe it'll cut down on the incest, if nothing else, in the South. But that's the biggest thing. Because I was watching it story after story. It's like, oh my God, incest really is bad. Zeus fucked his sister. Yeah, Zeus fucked his sister. Bad. Other shit, when the people started fucking their family, it didn't go too well in the long run. Well, Hera, I guess, had gotten Hercules to kill his family, and again, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm sure he felt bad, but he shouldn't have blamed himself. He should have blamed Hera. You know, uh, that incestuous brother fucker. She was just evil. Again, incest is bad. Well, he one of his tasks was he had to go steal her apples. And again, it's not an exact match, but one of the things was somebody gave an apple to Adam and Eve, the serpent did, and then they were kicked out of Eden. And you got another story where somebody, and again, it was theft. He had to go steal an apple, and I don't know. It just, there's a lot of this shit that's out there that's kind of weird. But how much of the Bible is wrong? Because I've watched people that make a case that the whole story of Noah is in some of the Gilgamesh story. There's a flood in the Greek story, which would predate Christianity and Judaism. And that, the stuff about Zeus and the flooding and all that, that would date back to Atlantis. That would absolutely date back to Atlantis. Um, Maybe the Atlantis story is taught up with the Sumerian tales because there's some of these guys. And again, I don't know. I literally don't know. But I watched this one. It was one of the guys that's on Gaia. It was on YouTube, so I was able to watch it. He was doing an interview for somebody on YouTube, and they were sitting there talking about. They were talking about how you had Atlantis, Mu, and the uh, Anunnaki, and that Atlantis and Mu had been friends. And then Anunnaki stirred up shit. We all work with those people, right? Anunnaki was that evil bitch you work with that's always stirring up shit. Well, she basically got them fighting. And then we had problems. So like, a lot of this stuff that's in the Bible and this thing you got like when you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, I heard one guy say, one scholar saying, well, when you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, it sounds like God was either bipolar or they're talking about two different people. They do not seem like the same person, or it's the same person who went fucking bipolar and just, fucking changed. Well, the the thing is, how much of these stories in the Bible? Because like with the Jewish faith, once they started writing the Bible, they had really good quality control. Like if you watch Babylon 5, there was a segment in there where Jakar was writing his book, the Book of Jakar, which was, apparently somebody had done that with the Book of Jaquan or whatever it is that they talked about earlier in the show. Well, anyways, he and they pointed out that if any mistakes at all are made, they have to throw it out and start all over. I don't think they threw out the page. I think they threw out the whole copy because it was a spiritual thing. Well, that is real similar to my understanding of what the Jewish faith did when they started printing the Bible. They, if they fucked up, where the problem you have with the Jewish faith is it was an oral tradition for like over 1,000 years, and there were, I can't remember who it was. I think it was a comedian. It might have been George Carlin. I don't know. But they said, well, yeah, it was an oral tradition for like 1,000 years or something like that. That's why when you read it, the farther back you go, the more incredible the stories are. Because as they told it generation to generation, they started making the older stuff more fantastic and less believable. And then, but with the Catholic faith, the Christian faith, oh my God, when they started writing it, they had no quality control at all. And that was one of the things. If you want to know more about this, read the book Misquoting Jesus. He's got like a whole chapter on this where he talks about the different. He became born again in high school, and when he got out of college or when he got out of high school, he wanted to go and actually learn how to read the Bible in its original language. Well, what he found out real quick was that some of the Bible is originally written in Greek. Some of it is written in Aramaic. There's like 2, 3, 4, 5 languages. If you want to read the Bible in its original form, you got to know at least a couple languages. And best example I can give this, if you are a martial art person, if you've ever heard of something called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and it's spelled Tao, but it's pronounced Tao, I believe. If you get that thing was never intended as a book. What it was all these fucking notes left over by Bruce Lee, and when he died, his wife got a hold of a person very well respected who could basically take them, edit them into a book, and then sell it so people could, gain from his wisdom stuff that was never meant to be published. And that's kind of what all the Bible is a collection of edited short stories. It was never written as a book. And yeah, he get a little fresh, doesn't he? And but no, but that's the thing, And they found through the Dead Sea Scroll and elsewhere, they have found multiple copies of Scripture. Like there's at least 2 copies of the Lord's Prayer. And there's other stuff in there. And like one thing he noticed was that if you've ever heard that story, if you he who lives in glass houses shouldn't throw stones or something like that, I think that's the one. Well, as he went back and he started researching this, he'd basically go and he'd investigate different Bibles, then he'd go and find other Bibles, and what he found is that if you go back far enough, and some stuff they can carbon date, some stuff they can't, some stuff that they should be able to carbon date they can't because it was it was near a fire and the smoke fucks up their carbon dating and that. And I think there's newer things they got now that they did not have when he was writing this book. And but anyways, they they uh, he found, like, if you go back far enough, what you find is that whole story about the glass houses and throwing stones, it is written in the margin, like it's in the Bible as a copy. It's in there. But if you go back, like, say, 500 or 1,000 years, you see it in the margin. Like somebody wrote it in there. Like if you've ever gotten a textbook or done this yourself, where you've got like a textbook on history or math or science, kind of like that Harry Potter movie where he gets that, Half Blood Prince's book, and there's all these notes and shit on the side. Well, it was like that. It was written on the side. It was just, and he goes, well, it was like somebody read it, and that was their impression. This is what they took from it. And then if you go, and it was basically copied after that in the margin. And if you go back even further, it doesn't exist. So like it started out, it wasn't there. Somebody got the bright idea, wrote it in the margin, and after a number of years of copying it, somebody just copied it into the body of the Bible. Really wasn't in the Bible. And there was another thing he found where there was it was I can't tell you what language. It might have been Greek, but it was a symbol language. And these symbols, depending on how they're used, can have more than one meaning. Like in theory, like I think with Chinese letters, if a symbol is right side up, it means one thing, and if you flip it upside down, it means the opposite. Well, this one here, you had a symbol, and it either had a dot or it didn't have a dot above it. And if it was the same thing, with or without the dot, it was the opposite of the other version of it. And it was during the crucifixion of Jesus. And he said this Bible is used by a lot of other Bibles. There's a lot of Bibles that have used this to copy into English or Latin or whatever their fucking language is. Well, the weird thing about it is that that symbol has a little dot on it, but the dot's a different color than the rest of the symbol. Instead of being black ink like the other ones, this is written on old papyrus, I think. Instead of being that way, what it is, it's kind of purplish instead of black. And what he found was on the opposite side of the page, that dot's on the other side of the page, and it's the right color, and then it bled through into the other side of the page. And if I were, and you really need to read the book because I'm not sure I'm remembering this 100% accurate. I'm at least in the ballpark. But it was something along the lines of it changed it by realizing that dot didn't belong there. It changed it from Jesus walked with God to Jesus walked away from God. And it was something along the lines where he was just screaming out about why you had forsaken me and all this when he was being crucified. And so like what else are we not being told? And this I don't really know, but like there seems to be similarities. And then that this is another. I think I had heard this before, but I never really thought about it. But I'm thinking about it now when you've got like someone saying the military thinks UFO research is demonology, and I'm seeing a movie about demons where they're chaining fucking rooms and doors shut like they do at Skinwalker Ranch, which nobody's calling demonology. But there was a guy, and I think it was one of those. I think it was that Jewish rabbi scholar that you see on the History Channel a lot. But somebody was talking about how, and there was other shows, and some of these were on the History Channel too, where they're talking like if you go back to the Old Testament, not the New Testament, the Old Testament, they talk about things that sound just like demons, but they're not listed as demons. I think they called them jinn, like male genies or whatever. And they were talking about how Solomon controlled them with a ring that had the inscription of God's name. Well, that sounds like technology. And they said that he used these jinn to fucking build Solomon's temple. Well, now we're getting into the area where, like, oh my God, we still don't know how they built the stones in Egypt. We still don't know how they did all. We don't know how they built the pyramids. There's a lot of these megalithic sites we don't have any idea. That one guy down in Florida or somewhere, I think, sounds like he may have figured it out, but we don't know how they did it. And were they demons or were they technology? Was this something, did he control a technology? Or is there some spiritual being, something from another dimension or something that, exists in this one that ring allowed him to control him? Evidence of a lost technology, any way you slice it. And I don't know. I literally don't know. So, like, and then you hear the stories about, like I said, where you had the Anunnaki, you had Atlantis, you had, the Mu, other races. Could it be that maybe whatever they were, these things weren't evil, they just were pets or something controlled by an advanced race, and maybe the people that wrote the Bible were trying to rewrite history. They tried to make it sound evil. You had, you talk about these reptilian aliens and other stuff. Well, what if the snake in the Bible was really a race of reptile aliens? And what if they were friendly to us? What if they were honestly trying to help us? And then, whoever was controlling us, when they gave us intelligence, well, then we were kicked out. They were just trying to help us. These are all questions we don't have answers to. But I just want to give you that to think about. I really do. See what we're going with there. And hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. Just think on it. Seriously, think on it. And for all of you out there, if you're gung-ho on UFOs, if you're gung-ho on ghosts and demonology, if you're gung-ho on ancient civilizations, try to open your mind up to the other two, because I got a feeling that if we get all three groups pulling their oar in the same direction, maybe we'll find something out that's been hidden from us. If there were, I don't even want to speculate because I don't know, but like maybe we'll find the truth out. Like as we find out more about civilizations that were around 300,000 years ago, maybe we'll also find out that the gray aliens, the lizard aliens, the fucking Nordics or whatever they're called, maybe these are all people we were allied with or something, and they're trying to rebuild us after a fucking calamity or something like that. It sounds like the moon isn't naturally a part of our system. Maybe if we dig up enough shit, maybe we'll find the secrets of a technology where we'll be able to pull it back into orbit, because it looks like it was done to protect us, and it's drifting and drifting and drifting further away. Well, maybe down the road we'll find some link to a technology. Maybe we'll find out that all these places that seem haunted or seem demonic, maybe there's something out there. Maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. Some of it doesn't seem all very helpful. And you talk about like Bermuda Triangle and some of these other Skinwalker Ranch. Maybe these things are created by some leftover Atlantean technology that's controlled by an AI running on autopilot, and maybe it's starting to malfunction. Maybe it needs to be repaired or turned off. Who knows? And the one thing that I find interesting is, especially as this is getting worse now, Bob Lazar made the comment about Tesla. And he made the comment that if Tesla had done what he set out to, if he had basically electrified the air where you could just pull electricity out of the air for free, he said, modern day computer revolution would have never happened because according to him, if that had done, you would not have electricity cycling through your computer, making it work, making all your electronic devices work. He goes, they would have been all electrified at once. And according to him, well, maybe the pyramids, because some people think they're power generators, maybe the pyramids protected us from AI. Because by having that electricity going through the air, it made them not able to work. Maybe Tesla was stopped because we were already under the control of something. And he had to be stopped before, he took somebody out of power. Um, all interesting things. Peace out. I hope everybody has a great day. And, it's only 3:15. Yeah, it's a little early for that. I'm going to let the cats go. Even though she didn't help me co-host the stream, even for a couple minutes. Yeah, she didn't help me co-host the stream. She was not very helpful. I might go feed them. I'm getting hungry too. Peace out and hope everybody has a good day.